If my people Bible reading part 114, uh, no one should have a special book of the Bible, but it's like this is the icing on the cake. I prefer a cake with icing on it. I don't prefer a cake without icing. It's just not the same. You don't get the full flavor. And if you lick the icing out of the bowl and eat too much of it, better get some sound into it. Sorry about that. And you're not going to like that either. So the cake and icing go together, but Isaiah is just so many things today just absolutely jump out from you when the Ruach is sitting there comfortably telling you, that's it, that's it, that's it. Yeah, now you get it. We just finished about, excuse me, idols disappearing in chapter 2, verse 18. Now, as we've seen reading through this Bible, and we haven't gotten halfway through yet, even the Old Covenant, that Yahweh asks his people to do something. Now, if you don't do it, he may do it at times. And if he doesn't do it, he has the evil nations do it for him. Evil rulers, evil kings, evil, evil people. They do, even with hardened hearts. So, hear and obey. I'll just example in the last 10 years. Evil people from the Middle East went around and destroyed, killed women, children, houses, Syria, Damascus, Iraq, so forth, so on, all over the place. Turkey stepping in to, excuse me again, to protect their lands. Everybody's fussing and fighting with each other. And what was interesting was that these evil people went around busting and tearing up old idols of pagan gods and Baal temples and so forth that had been preserved by the Christians. You heard me. Preserved by the Christians because they controlled that area for years. And so the Islam didn't do it until the bad part of Islam. There's good and bad. There's the good that they are at least peaceful, and then there's the bad that they have their false religion and they're evil. And those were the ones around and tore up the idols and all these. And the United States sat around and said nothing. Well, should we have done this thousands of years ago? Destroyed these Baal symbols and images, and we didn't. And then the Christians took over in the last 1,000 years there, and they didn't do it either. Pardon, I wouldn't want to listen to somebody like that with a throat. I just want you to think about that. Now, we had nothing to do with that, and we don't care about Baal, do we? But we have all kinds of symbols all over the United States. Obelisks. Washington Monument is a classic example. And images of people that are reverend, that maybe they shouldn't be as much as they should, but there they are. There's images all over the place. And many of these statues that have been torn down. Torn down in the last couple of months, 4 or 5 months, weren't erected until President Wilson was elected. Did you know that? Sons of the Civil War, but not only that, sons of the Confederacy, daughters of the Revolution, so forth. But more importantly, the ones, the most of them have been put up, that most of them have been torn down, have come from the Sons of the Confederacy. And through Wilson and the Ku Klux Klan, they financed this, and they built these statues all over the United States, not just in the South, because they're not real happy about losing the Civil War, you know. Those were the ones torn down. Just to make you think about these last days we live in. So, pardon me. Forgive me. Verse 19. Classic. Men will flee to caves in the rocks and to the holes in the ground from the dread of Yahweh and the splendor of his majesty when he rises to shake the earth. When he rises, not Satan, when Yeshua rises to shake the earth. I work for the government. I'm trying to tell you this, that no one believes it about what I'm saying, but there have been hundreds, now thousands of temples tunnels and caves, man-made, built all over the world for military, the industrial military complex. This is a terrible recording. Sorry. The anything that has to do with preserving their form of government in the future. It has nothing to do with the public. When I worked for emergency management for years and years, we had vaccines, we have things stocked up and piled that you would not believe, but they're only for the people that are going in the caves and the hiding places. And it's all built under Republican and Democrat, by the way, voted for this. They voted it. It wasn't Democrat. It was Republican and Democrat. They've been doing this nonsense, this Masonic type behavior for 50 years. And it wasn't until the channel was built. Remember the big channel machine that made the tunnel across from England to France? Those things are everywhere, even under St. Louis now. They're huge. And people don't even care and don't even know for the most part. But they're not allowed in, and I was told that. You've got so much to save people with, but you can't save the public at large. So you got to build your hospitals for protection to keep the people from getting in there. Getting into what? Getting into what? Coming in the hospital? I got to put a fence all the way around hospitals to prevent the people from coming into the hospital? What? Yeah. Yeah. And that plan has been around for a long time. Doesn't mean anything until you read verse 19. Because for thousands of years, people, David hid in a cave. Everybody hides in caves. Indians hid in caves. People from America, when they traveled across it, hid in caves. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about a massive, massive hiding in plain sight. And guess what? You ain't coming. That's why, as much as I stockpiled for years and years, I never stockpiled for people like you. So along comes COVID. Now, I did spend some of the stockpile for Ebola. There was enough. That was like 99.999 fake. It wasn't nearly what people thought it was. And it went away as fast as it came. Now comes this cold. When you look at this structure, I've looked at these things under microscopes. You look at COVID, and they show an evil picture with it's like a star, that's what a cold looks like. And if you get the flu, because 30,000 people die every year from the flu, every year. So in the last 10 years, that's 300,000. Whoa, that's way over what have died from this year of this so far. And then okay, well, nobody seems to care. And you get an inoculation for it. You get vaccinated. Okay, I understand that. But this thing here acts like a cold. It's not going to go away. COVID is here for a long time because it's not natural. It's man-made. Let me put it this way. It is natural, but it's been accentuated by mankind. Not by Wahi or Hua or whatever it is in China. They stole their ideas from somebody. They're thieves. They can't invent a kitchen fork. They steal everything. So where'd they steal it from? That's the next question. Where did they steal the COVID? We're famous for that. The United States is famous. As I pointed out before, Anniston, Alabama. There's a military base there that's been moved, by the way. Now the main one that they make all this fun stuff with is not in China. It's in Virginia. Just telling you. Knowing that information, knowing your enemy is where I'm saying. Know your enemy and you know what to do next. You're not a prophet. You simply know what to do next when you know your enemy and you know what they're going to do. It says in verse 20, in that day, here goes that day again, men will throw away to the rodents and the bats their idols of silver and their idols of gold, which they made to worship. In other words, living in those caves and tunnels is going to be a short-lived situation. It ain't going to be fun. And they're going to get out of there, and all that cost of the money, all the gold and silver it's taken to bankrupt this nation, to trillions and trillions of dollars, which you can't get out of. You cannot get out of that. Not even going to World War III will bring them out. World War II helped to get everybody out of the Depression, if you think about it. Roosevelt's plans and his democratic, socialist, communist ways didn't work. When Henry Wallace was his vice president, look this up. Henry Wallace was a devout communist, and he was from Iowa. He was as communist as you can get, and he's trying to turn the whole world with Roosevelt into communism. That's why he was the vice president. Behind the scenes of Roosevelt was Henry Wallace and Roosevelt's wonderful wife, who was about as evil as you can get. All right, glad they're gone, but more crap has been birthed since. It's getting worse as far as the CRAP in this world. It's important to understand history so you don't repeat it. And they tried to falsify and what is the word in the last? See, I'll just bring this up. I know it's not going to mean anything 20 years from now, but it should. They tried to stack the Supreme Court. That's what Henry Wallace was doing, and it went bad. So what did Roosevelt do? Typical evil person. He gets rid of another evil. Evil kills evil. Evil hates evil. Evil hates you. Evil hates everybody. So he got rid of old Henry, and he ends up bringing in, of all things, Truman later on. But having done that, that was the end of Wallace's days, and I even worked in the Henry Wallace building in Des Moines. And I was curious one day, what kind of a building with gold windows that reflects on the Capitol when the sun rises, so it looks like a beautiful golden Capitol from 30 miles away in Des Moines? As you're coming from the east and going west, you see this glow, or from the sun setting from either side, you see this glowing dome because of the Henry Wallace building. I've had to figure, and then all these tunnels. Now this is back in 1978 and 79 and 80. All the tunnels underneath Des Moines that people that live there an entire life, through generations, don't know what I'm talking about. These tunnels have been there a long time. A very long time. Just to make you laugh a little bit. I guess I wasted it with this coughing stuff. One time I took a quarter, and I was going over the Capitol, and it was cold, so I took the secret tunnel. The secret tunnels were everywhere. And I rolled the quarter because it kind of goes in it doesn't go straight to the Capitol. It kind of goes in a bowl, curvy shape. And I rolled this quarter, and it goes, whee, and I lost the sight of the quarter. It just kept going and going and going. So a few minutes later, I heard this noise of it sound like a quarter. And the quarter goes whizzing past me, and it just kept going. So I think it was my quarter. It came back. And I thought, well, that's funny. And I was with another guy, and we were going to go over there to the Capitol to get something to eat. They got an underground dining room. And anyway, okay. Who walks past me? The governor of Iowa. He had a smirk on his face. It was him. He was the one that caught my quarter coming, and he turned around and he threw it right back to me. Robert Ray. Robert Ray was the governor of Iowa back then. And the next month, for some reason, I gave him some ideas on how to save money and so forth. He made me employee of the month in Iowa. And that was awful nice. So he actually took an idea I had, and it was about changing the lights in the buildings throughout the United States. I said, if you get rid of the single filament that pulsates and vibrates and pulses in waves, you'll get rid of headaches that people constantly have in buildings. And guess what? They did it eventually in Iowa and the entire United States. It took 25 years, but they did it. People are no longer calling in sick because of massive headaches working those buildings. Did Yahweh give me that? I didn't get it from my own head, and I didn't get it from anybody else. So yeah, he did. I do believe that Yahweh is it's just the greatest thing that ever was and ever will be. He is Yah. If you just say his name, believe in him, and follow him, hear and obey. All right, I'll do better next time.